I have been absolutely loving Nighthaven patch. I think it's one of the best updates the New World has had in years. We've got brand new raid, Catacombs, and we're absolutely phenomenal. More on that later. But there's a huge glaring issue in Season 10. If you played recently, you'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about. In this video, I'm about to break down the good, the bad, and the ugly of New World in 2025. What's working, what's not, and whether it's still worth your time. And of course, we'll talk about what I think the devs will end up fixing it. First, I want to dive into the most glaring issue of Season 10, and that's going to be the gearing problem. Oh my god. New World Aeternum has a thing that is plaguing the game. Those of you who do not know, well, let me break it down. New World Aeternum has chest runs, AFK farming. Now, don't get me wrong, some MMOs have these, and that's okay to a certain extent. The problem here is that is hands down one of the best ways to get gear in the entire game. Right now, you get legendaries from doing chest runs and sitting at these AFK farm spots that are scattered across the map. More on that later. When you get a drop from one of these places, you get a legendary. You then have to quickly hover over this legendary to see if it's worth keeping. A big problem here is, well, the fact that most players who came to New World in 2025, they have no idea what's even going on in the first place, and now they are front-loaded with a massive line of text. It's like reading an essay while trying to work at McDonald's. It's just not going to end well. People are trying to have fun here, not get their PhD in MMO economics. So what exactly is going on? Well, you'll get a piece of gear that'll have 5 perks on it. Each of these perks will do something different, and you have to understand what exactly you're reading to know if it's good or bad. There is 1,000 of combinations to get on your gear, and not only that, but you have armor, weapons, and jewelry, 3 different categories of gear that all have their own weapons, all have their own perks, and their own specialities that you want to have. Translation, there is an absolute crap ton of information to digest, and then the game throws you at it at 100 miles an hour. For people who have been playing New World since Season 9, or just playing it the entire time, they are having problems. I only can imagine what it's like for a new player, or someone who quit this game years ago to come back and see this line of text. It must be exhausting, and I'm finding it exhausting as well. But why is this such a problem? It wouldn't be such a problem if you weren't getting that much gear, but you are getting a crap ton of it. Like, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of items a day that you have to manually sort through and determine what's worth keeping and what's not. Why? Well, because when you're out on these runs or sitting at the AFK farming, you will actually get over encumbered. Translation, you can't move an inch. And if you can't move, well, you're not going anywhere. So you have to choose sometimes on the fly what to keep and what to destroy. And I only can imagine if I was a new player playing the game for the first time and I accidentally salvaged something that a better or professional player would consider best in slot. This would make me want to shoot myself in the foot out of pure anger and rage. Because who throws a system like this at a new player and expects them to know what's happening and then force me to sort it on the fly? This is a terrible game design, and what I think will make a lot of players quit in the long run, especially since there is no way to guarantee good gear right now. More on that here in a sec. Let's keep talking about chest runs. These chest runs are also very easy to do. You can turn off your brain, go full brain dead mode, and easily do it. Same with the AFK farming spots. You just sit there and look at a boss get spawn killed endlessly until he goes insane. It's like you're playing a match. Who's gonna lose their mind first? The boss or you standing there watching him die 30 times? Right now, I believe I am winning, and I can't wait for the finish line. But the massive problem here is while I'm sitting here, I have to walk over, grab all this loot, and then quickly sort through it all like I'm doing a minute speed test. If I accidentally decon the wrong thing, my build is in the trash can. So I have to make sure I read it carefully enough to understand what's going on. And here's the kicker. There is something called a gem slot. Now, gem slots is practically best in slot on 95% of gear. But the problem is sometimes it's actually technically not. This makes the game even more confusing because newer players are trying to find a system that allows them to completely understand the game with a bit of cheat sheets. It's like going to the masthead and you bring the formulas with you. They're just there to help, not to cheat. You know, we would never cheat here. But the problem is, not having a gem slot isn't always technically, well, best in slot. Some Jewelry pieces don't even want to have a gem slots, they would rather have perks or offensives to stack more damage. The only weapon I believe in the entire game that doesn't want to have a gem slot is Greatsword, as you can get some absolutely disgusting perk combinations on there. That makes it better not to have it in the first place, as there are some broken perks on Greatsword. So this adds another layer of complex to the game that shouldn't be there to begin with. I believe everything in the entire game should have a gem slot, just to simplify it a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I love customization and build variety as much as the next theory crafter, but I think all this unnecessary information being thrown at someone who's been playing the game for years, and I'm still a bit confused, and that is a problem. Because no one should have to get a PhD in New World to understand the gearing system. And we haven't gotten to the worst part yet. The gear is completely random besides sets. What does this mean? This means I can spend 5 to 20 hours doing a chest run and never get one single piece of gear that is worth keeping. That is almost a full-time job just out the window. Just simply due to the fact that I can't get anything that's worth just having in my inventory. And the worst part is, that can technically be forever if I'm super unlucky. There is no pity system, there is no way to guarantee best in slot besides sets. More on that here in a sec, but I'll give you a quick breakdown. Sets have a guaranteed perk and set bonus that will help you along the way. But the problem with that is it's still very rare to technically get best in slot. But while we're at it, what do you get from chest runs and these AFK farms that are so viable? Well, you can get normal legendary gear that basically spawns like hotcakes. Greens are more rare than legendaries, purples are more rare than legendaries, and same with blues. Basically, legendaries have become the new common item, as, well, they drop everywhere. No matter where you're going, if you're looting a random chest out in the wild or killing this random dog mob, you're gonna get a legendary, completely devaluing the dopamine hit you get from picking up a legendary. These are supposed to be the hype moments. These are supposed to make you be like, yes, bro, I'm about to get my best in slot piece of armor. I'm about to get hyped here. But in reality, it's a chore. And I'm playing a janitor simulator because I'm forced to clean out my inventory every 30 minutes just to get more room for more slop to enter it. Now, this loop was fun at the start, but I feel like a lot of players are getting tired of it. I know a couple of friends of mine are getting very sick and they just want a break from the game because it's very frustrating to sink all this time and effort into something and get absolutely nothing in return. So I have a few suggestions I think would be good. I think they should add a pity system or something that at least allows you to get close to best in slot just by putting in time. If I decon a certain amount of legendaries, or if I do a certain amount of chest runs, I should get these materials that allow me to craft something that's close to best in slot, but that I can't trade. Now, you may be saying, why can't I trade this? I want to make gold. Well, my sweet summer child, this was a massive problem in Season 10. Before Season 10, there was crafting. Crafting was best in slot pretty much from all gear across the board except artifacts. In Season 10, crafting is dead, done, dusted into the waters. Why is this? Well, because last season, somebody could just take out their credit card, whip out a couple of Benjamins, and then buy best in slot gear and outshine anyone who's been playing the game for months just because they had a few extra $100 to spare on a suspicious website that traded them $1,000,000 gold. And this is why they had to remove crafting. New World Aeternum was extremely RMT heavy last season. I didn't want to talk about it too much because I didn't want to discourage people from playing the game and making them upset. But if someone killed you and they felt like way stronger than a normal player, they bought their gear pretty much. It was almost guaranteed because farming that took so long and was so inconsistent that people just ended up buying and crafting it because those crafts were extremely expensive, about a couple $100K per craft. So then came Season 10 and they wanted everything to be bind on pickup, so you couldn't do this anymore and you actually had to play the game to get gear. This led us down a massive rabbit hole of now AFK farming and chest runs. One of the AFK farms got so bad that they had to actually hotfix it because it was going to craft the server. This is how greedy people are in MMOs. I swear to God, if people in MMOs actually tried to be good people in real life, there would be no such thing as world hunger or war. The world would be peaceful because of the amount of sweatiness that goes on into getting their best in slot loadout. But don't get me wrong, there are still other ways to get gear in New World besides chest runs and these AFK farming spots. Bring in mutation and catacombs. These are also a great way to get good gear right now, as you can technically get best in slot from Catacombs. This is only for certain builds, and then you can only get best in slot in mutations as well, and this will also be catered to certain builds. Technically, hold on. There is also other ways to farm loot in New World right now. You have mutation and Catacombs. These are the other two most prevalent ways. Let's break down them one by one. Catacombs is an extremely well designed piece of the puzzle. You go into a 3-man mode. We gotta clear 5 to 6 bosses to get good loot. You can then spend this loot to open up boxes and completely gamble until your heart contends. While you're doing this, you can purchase sets and skins, making you have a lot of reasons to do Catacombs across the board. The major problem here is, well, these sets are only catered towards certain builds such as PvE DPS or mage builds for PvP and PvE, meaning it's not worth it for all types of players to do this content. That's a major drawback. 2, the boxes that you can open for your regular coins don't technically give you best in slot because they don't drop in fixes like chest runs do. This is another massive problem locked behind chest runs. And fixed perks are completely and utterly overpowered. They will be pre-bis almost certainly, and technically they could be best in slot even at endgame. We just don't know yet. These infixes are mandatory for certain builds, as they give you broken perks, like get more crit chance when your HP is low, give you 20% additional healing when you get below 70% health. Like, there is some massive broken perks locked behind these infixes that will be mandatory to be even slotted in war or to do certain dungeons come later in World Aeternum. What does this mean? It means you want to get these as fast as possible, and sadly, Catacombs is not a way to do this. Besides those certain gear sets that you can get, the Overcharge and Elemental set, you get no other infixes. This is a massive drawback of Catacombs. I think Catacombs is really fun, and personally, my favorite game mode in World Aeternum at the moment, as you come in with 3 boys, you split around, run, and kill a bunch of bosses and have a good time. But there's also a big problem, in my opinion, with Catacombs right now, and that is the meta and the way to clear it. While you're doing Catacombs, you want to split by yourselves. So you're turning into MMO, was supposed to be a bit of a social game. I don't mind 3 people, even 5, 10's a little too much for me. I don't have 9 friends. But a 3-man raid, I want the boys to be together, but sadly, this is not the case. While you do this, you want to split up and try and farm as many enemies solo as fast as possible, and then you want to do your first bosses solo as well. Group up on the 4th boss. If you don't have time to wait for the 5th guy, you kill the 4th boss in a duo, and then only at the 5th boss do you finally regroup and see all the homies again. I think this is a bad overall game design, as this is supposed to be a co-op mode, not a solo dungeon I'm spending with 3 friends. Meaning, I think they should change this, rework this a bit. I sadly don't think the devs will ever do this, as they don't really know how to balance this properly, as seen by the perk system. They said that they wanted perks to not be mandatory this season. Well, guess what, boys? Well, that was a complete lie. I press X to doubt, as there will still be mandatory perks, mandatory sets to make your build meta, and they just don't know how to balance things properly, so I don't think this Catacomb issue will ever be resolved. But other than that, I think Catacombs is a phenomenal game mode. I wish they would add a chest that you could buy with those golden things instead of the certain sets that can drop in fixes. That would be a cool way to also farm in fixes while having an absolute blast. But Catacombs aside, let's break down dungeons next. And these were also a good way to get pre-bis, technically best in slot for certain builds, as they do drop 4 charms, making you go full defensive or full damage, depending on what you want to do. Now, the major problem behind, well, dungeons is they're a lot harder to do than a chest run or AFKing in a farm spot. Translation, no one's going to do anything that requires more work than something that makes you do less work and you get the same rewards. That's a massive downside of New World Aeternum right now. I believe it's human nature to always choose the path of least resistance. And right now, the easiest, most brain dead thing to do is sit AFK at this guy like I'm doing right now while recording this video, because I'm just getting free real estate. And I might as well get loot while making a YouTube video. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And if I want to go get some infix gears, all I have to do is go turn off my brain and do a chest run, and I'll get infix pieces of gear. I don't have to get 4 gremlins together, pray to God that they're not bad at the game, and then run through a dungeon to get the same loot as me turning off my brain. That is just bad game design. I firmly believe if you want to make something harder, more challenging, the rewards have to match that difficulty spike, not only for the content challenge itself, but the difficulty of getting other people involved to do said challenge. Nobody likes to play with randoms to begin with. I don't believe that on God. People like playing with their friends or either by themselves. So forcing people to play with randoms or actually go and seek this, that's a huge bar to entry that a lot of casuals just don't want to do. And because of that, everyone feels forced and locked in to do chest runs and AFK farms. And that's why you see 80 to 90% of the player base right now just doing these two things that are incredibly mind-numbing. Like, I don't know who's going to go more insane, me or the boss I've been seeing killed 1,000 times, but I do believe I am winning the sanity race, as I still got at least 10% of my brain land for that guy. It looks like he's about to crack. And let's now talk about the PvP track, something I haven't even mentioned, boys. It's the time to PvP. Now, there are certain sets that are locked behind the PvP wall that you only can get here. There's some fixes locked behind this as well. And the big problem behind this is, well, PvP, a lot of people don't like it, believe it or not. The PvP sweats can't believe this, but people actually don't like fighting other players. This is a massive drawback for a good portion of the community. I'd probably say about 20 to 30 to 40% of the people who actually play this game don't enjoy PvP at all, and that's completely fine. But the problem is, it takes a lot of effort to PvP, and it takes a long time to get gear from the PvP track. Way longer than it does to do chest runs or to run a AFK farm and turn off your brain, go get some bacon and eggs and have a good meal. And because of this, nobody that doesn't want to PvP wants to go farm those tracks, which is a massive problem because there is technically best in slot gear locked behind those tracks. That is a big problem for the casual player, especially people who don't like PvPing. And then I mentioned that these sets also have complete RNG on them, meaning even if I get the correct piece, I might have to do another 50 levels of PvP track just to get the best in slot one, and that is 100 hours of grinding minimum. When you add that into doing the chest farms, hundreds of hours to get good gear there. If I want to go to the Night Isle raid, by the way, let's say I want a good earring or a good weapon. Now I have to pray to God I get the correct earring piece, which is a 1 in 3 chance. Now after this, I have to get the right perks, which I believe is going to be like another 1 in 10 chance. You multiply all that together, that gets to like a 1 in 60, 1 to 70 chance of getting best in slot gear. Now that is just average. That's not even in counting bad odds. If you're unlucky, that could easily go to 150 times. You could be doing the same boss and not get best in slot. That is absolute torture. I wouldn't want to wish that on my worst enemy. I'm not saying the gear grind has to be easier, has to be less difficult. I'm just saying there should be a pity system or something that rewards your time and effort. I don't think anyone in their existence enjoys putting time and effort into something and getting nothing in return. I know a few of my friends, myself included, who are getting extremely annoyed at the gearing system because I can spend 10 to 20 hours doing a chest run and then still salvage everything, becoming a janitor, not a player, because I know next day I have to do that again and pray to RNG Jesus that tomorrow I get lucky. People are getting frustrated, people are getting annoyed across the board, and this is a very sad sight to see because this patch has a lot of good things to offer. I would say the only bad thing, in my opinion, is the gearing system. And what's crazy about this is the chest runs and the AFK farming is what killed New World 4 years ago. For you guys who are new to the game or been playing off and on, back in the day, all we had back then was chest runs. We had no dungeons, no PvP content at all, and this is why New World, I believe, lost a good 90% of the player base in 3 months. There was other reasons, of course, like bugs and exploits, but I believe the lack of content killed it for a lot of players. There was just nothing to do, and now, 4 years later, we're doing the exact same thing. Nothing. Just sitting in a spot, watching a mob die 100 times, or doing the same chest runs I've been doing for 4 years over and over again, praying to the gods I finally get blessed for once in my miserable life. But let's break down some of the positive. That's a lot of negative. Well, what are the positive? The raids are really fun. The Catacombs are phenomenal, well designed. Besides my one issue of splitting up, I think mutations are really good and really fun to do, especially when you're in a coordinated group. There's nothing wrong with doing mutations here and there. The problem is, it's just you shouldn't be forced to do them when they're not giving you better rewards than something else. Another big drawback of the season is artifacts. Artifacts used to be the kings of gear, something to strive for, something that was mandatory on each and every one of your builds. But now they've become a relic of the past for a lot of weapons, a lot of earrings, jewelry, and armor alike. Why? Because the new perk system and infixes just overshine them. A great example of this, in my opinion, is Serenity. This was one of the best tanking artifacts in the entire game, amazing for both PvP and, well, PvE. But guess what, boys? They said, Serenity, we're going to remove the gem slot, so now it's just no longer an S+ tier weapon. Meaning, seeing this beautiful red baby in my inventory now brings me nothing but pain and sadness. I don't know why they chose to do this to artifacts. I feel like artifacts should be the best in slot endgame as well, because, well, you only can have one per set of gear. So one for weapon, one for armor, one for jewelry. And I feel like they added a lot of depth and uniqueness to your build. And sadly, I feel like the devs have kind of overshadowed this with the new systems and sets, and then not backing up artifacts with some of their own unique power buffs, keeping them into the meta as of today. Now, don't get me wrong, I think artifacts are definitely pretty biz, and they could technically be best in slot later down the line, depending on when people fully understand the meta. And they're one of the best things about artifacts, as they are stock standard. They will not change no matter what. You just have to do a boss 5 times or a dungeon 5 times. Bam, boom, we got a piece of gear that will never abandon us. It will always stay with us, and all our time and effort will be worthwhile. That is a very nice yet comforting thing in Season 10 when everything is completely RNG. So overall, my quick breakdown is everything about Season 10 is phenomenal. You got a free DLC, a bunch of content is packed in, the story is really good, engaging, the voice acting suspicious at best, but you do get a cool few solo fights. You basically get to fight Count Dracula himself. You also get to, well, do dungeons are really good, well designed, the boss mechanics, everything is fully fleshed out at this point. There's no bugs or issues across the board, and build customization and versatility is out of the stratosphere, so making a theorist its own playground right now. Everything is looking up for New World Aeternum, as the weapons, the content is phenomenal right now. The only thing holding it back is the gearing system, and I think it's like an anvil, holding it, dragging it down to the Mariana Trench. If this issue does not get fixed, if this does not get resolved in some way, shape, or form, you are going to see New World's player base drop back down at extreme rapid pace. People can only put up with certain things for so long before they go completely insane, and I believe right now, New World devs could be running an experiment for how long people are willing to do chest runs before they quit their game, and I want to give it not more than a month, and this game could be completely dead due to the chest run and AFK farm that have started to play the game. What should they do to fix this? I believe they should just add more incentives to do dungeons such as Cata, mutations, and the raid, breaking us out of this chest run phenomenon. If they did that, well, then I think people would have a lot more fun. Especially buffing Cata, I think there's been not one single soul upon this earth who doesn't like Catacombs right now. So if they buff the loot in Catacombs, I think that would be a great way for people to keep playing their game. It's so fun, 30 minutes of action-packed combat with the boys. Nothing can really beat that. Pair that with the raid and dungeons, and you have a fully fleshed out system. You can keep chest runs and AFK farms, but the loot should not be on par with me actually having to sweat, put a correct build together, and get people to work together, than someone just turning off the brain, holding down W key, and getting the same rewards as me. That is where the problem lies. I also feel like they should buff the PvP track, give you more XP per win of OPR or arena, so you can get more items on that track. Right now, it's like a desert out there, so dry, you might not get a good piece for tracks upon tracks, meaning it could be tens of hundreds of hours before you finally see something good on there. When you combine all this, the time sink in New World is massive. People will definitely have a lot of things to do this season, but the question is, will they have fun doing it? I don't think so, and I think that's what's going to end up killing the game in the long run. If you guys did enjoy this video, it means a lot to me. Smash like and subscribe. Huge shout out to all my YouTube channel members and my boys. Let me know down in the comments below if you think I'm just going insane because I've been sitting here killing the same boss for 2 hours, or am I on to something and I'm Walter White because I'm cooking up something fierce? Let me know down in the comments below. Have a good day.